I would suggest to people at home who are trying to do things on their own is to definitely follow the recipe step by step. If you veer from the recipe, it's probably not going to work for you. Baking is not like cooking. You can't just add whatever you feel like. It's very scientific. So following the recipe is definitely key. It's a lot of trial and error for sure.
A lot of practice.
And yeah, practice and that sort of thing. So, I mean, no one gets it right on their first time. I don't get it right on my first time either. So as long as I'm following the recipe, I'm gonna have a better chance of getting a better outcome.
Starting with a boxed mix of cake allows you to then put more focus on the decorating aspect. So you've got one step out of the way that you're not gonna worry about. It's almost 100% that it's likely going to work, and then you can focus on playing with the decorating side of it.
When I am cooking, to check if my cake is done, I use a toothpick and I put it in the middle of the cake, and if it comes out clean, it's done. And if it doesn't, then it needs more time. So maybe just do 5-minute increments after that.
Icing's easy enough to make, but I would definitely recommend buying fondant. It's very tricky to make. Your outcome will be 100% different if it doesn't set right. So store-bought fondant will get you those results that you're looking for. Yeah, we use a classic buttercream, which is very thick and dense, which allows us to stack cakes, to form them, to carve them. You definitely do not want to use whipped cream.
No.
The Swiss meringue buttercreams are nice as well, but that's a little bit trickier as a technique to make that icing, but it's delicious. It's definitely worth trying once or twice. But for decorating, we just go with a classic buttercream. Every single cake that we make basically starts the same way. So we're gonna start with 2 8-inch round cakes, and that's what you're gonna yield if you buy a box mix, which is okay so long as you're baking at home, or if you're using a pretty standard recipe. Once your cakes bake, they're gonna do a nice big dome over top. So in order to stack the cakes, we're gonna cut that off and make them nice and even. And one of our secrets to making a really dense, rich, moist cake is adding a little bit of simple syrup to the cakes. Michelle's doing that right now. She's got 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of water, and you mix it together, and it makes a nice little syrup. You can keep that in your fridge for a while and use it in drinks and in cocktails or for more baking. So basically just spread the simple syrup on the cake. If your cake is already really dense and moist, you don't need to do this. But we like to decorate our cakes a lot, so in order to preserve them for a longer period of time, this makes them nice and rich. Next up, we need icing. So Michelle's got in the bowl some basic buttercream icing.
That I didn't mix beforehand. When we make our buttercream, we like to add a little bit of water to it. It just smooths it out nicely so that when it's mixing, it's easier for us to spread on the cakes. So I'm just gonna mix it really fast, so it's gonna be really loud. Go.
So we'll stick the cake down to the board, a little bit of icing. And then we'll want to put the smooth bottom part right onto the board. Use about 2 cups of icing to ice in between cakes. This doesn't need to be perfect. It can just be schmucked around. Just make sure that it's even and level. And then we'll take this guy and put it upside down so that either side of the cake is nice and smooth. And then to finish it off, just ice the sides.
So when we're baking our cakes, instead of using parchment for lining the pans, we use shortening to run around the whole pan. And then you put a little bit of flour in there and coat the whole pan. That way, after you've done baking the cake, you can take your spatula and you can run it around the cake, and the cake easily comes out of the pan for you.
So that's it. That's a base coat of icing. They often use the term dirty icing or undercoating or masking. The cake can be stored like this for a little while. You can wrap it, you can get your other decorations ready for it, or from here you can immediately go and start icing it to your finished product.